News and markets.
All right, Bryce.
Yes.
Sports betting.
Yes.
A activity close to your heart.
No. One that may make the 2032 Brisbane Olympics, though.
Okay, Australia would dominate it.
Yes, pokies.
Now this is a topic where we get to sit on our high horse in some ways as a 7-year-old media company that has never taken a dollar from sports betting.
Yes.
Despite some big dollars dangled.
Serious dollars. Yes.
So, let's just put that out there because
Good on us.
we never get any credit for it. But I think let's start with the news and then apply an investing lens to what could happen. So, Australia,
Yes.
we're a nation of losers.
We are. By per capita, we lose the most on gambling in the world.
Yeah.
Close to $1,200 per person per year.
Yeah, so that's how much we lose.
Yes.
How much we gamble per person, about $7,500 per person per year.
Unbelievable.
All up across Australia, 198 billion. Yes, billion dollars wagered each year. Now, we all know it. We know how prevalent it is in sports broadcasts and everything. I think the stat is a child who is 12 years old has never seen a professional sports game without gambling ads.
Wow.
It's just so normalized. So the late Member of Parliament, she's unfortunately died, but Peter Murphy, she was tasked with reviewing and this industry.
Yeah.
And handed down her report and a set of recommendations in 2023.
Yes.
There were 31 recommendations from the report, but the important one that's making news at the moment is she called for a complete ban on gambling advertising. She suggested 4 phases to do it, and in perhaps the most provocative line, she said, gambling advertising is grooming children.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the stats to back it up, 75% of 8 to 16-year-old Australians think gambling is just a normal or common part of sport.
Wow.
So that's
Massive issue.
That's kind of like the context this report came down. The government's been considering it, and now we're getting some movement.
I feel like since the report was handed down, there wasn't a lot of chit chat, and now it's just bang in the headlines. It's come out that there's been meetings behind closed doors and a real push for gambling ads to be banned.
Yes.
I have questions on whether the government can hold firm here, because I think one of the strongest lobby groups in Australia would be the gambling companies.
Yeah, well, the government have already buckled like a house of cards.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
have they?
they've watered it down. So
Gone from a complete ban to...
So now, to speak to the lobbying, and then we'll where they're at. You're right. They have a massive lobby group. It's called like the Responsible Wagering Alliance or something like
Nice.
that, like an Orwellian
Yeah.
use of terminology there. Apparently, Michelle Rowland, the communications minister, key decision maker in this context. And for context, the gambling industry is always putting money into politics, both sides of politics. In 2022, Sportsbet donated $313,000 to political parties spread across both parties. So
Not
that's
as much as I thought, to be honest.
yeah, honestly, if you look at all the big political donors, it's never as much as you think.
Yeah, right.
Because we contextualize it in America
Yeah,
where
where
like
it's like 300 in
Yeah,
48
yeah,
hours.
yeah.
300 million.
So this has all come out recently. So the gambling lobbyists met Michelle Rowland 66 times in the past 6 months.
Wow.
That's a lot. There was a Sportsbet donation to Minister Rowland's campaign, which wasn't reported, but it was under the reportable threshold. So she didn't do anything wrong there, but it's not a good look. But speaking of not a good look, how about this? The AFR reported late last year that the gambling industry lobby, Responsible Wagering Australia, took Minister Rowlands out for a lavish lunch for her birthday.
How's that possible? How's that allowed? It's like, come on.
Now, I had a look at the restaurant. They took her to a Society restaurant in Melbourne.
Okay.
$12.50 for bread and butter.
Yep.
$18.50 for a side of potatoes.
Nice, nice.
Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the story. Let's get back on track.
So, yeah, I guess the question is what happens next here, because they've come out and said, we're going to ban all ads. They're getting lobbied hard.
No, they came out and recommended.
Recommended. There's been a lot of chit chat behind closed doors. it's hit the news because it's felt like it's gaining steam and momentum. You've had John Howard come out overnight.
Yeah. Calling for a complete ban.
Calling for a complete ban. Opposition leader Peter Dutton has called for a complete ban. So there's like bipartisan support.
Yeah.
However, it feels like it's crumbling pretty quickly.
Yeah. So it seems like where they're going to land, and this was a policy first floated by the Sydney Morning Herald, who happened to be owned by Nine, who happened to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of gambling ads.
Yeah.
They suggested a watered down version where it would be bans at certain times and then really a cap, like around sporting events, but then a cap of like 2 gambling ads per hour.
Per hour. Yeah.
Which doesn't really seem to break the connection between.
No.
It just makes those ad slots a lot more valuable.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's probably a good point to sort of bring in the investing lens here, because the industry spends $280 million a year on advertising.
Yes, just in Australia, 280 mil.
Just in Australia, yes. And so when we think about, this is really going, if they ban ads, it's really going to hurt the sports betting companies. But really who it's going to hurt the most is the beneficiaries of this $280 million.
Yeah. So I think if you were an owner of Flutter, which owns Sportsbet and Paddy Power and a whole bunch of gambling apps, you probably wouldn't change your thesis if gambling ads were banned in Australia. There will probably be less wagered, but like structurally your thesis wouldn't change. The biggest losers are going to be the broadcasters, who are already in a world of hurt.
Broadcasters and also like AFL, NRL, all of these, like they'll be pseudo implicated from that as well, because the broadcasting rights that they sell through, like
Definitely.
sell through to Channel 7, Channel 9, and would that have an impact?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like the total value of the game is driven mainly by broadcast rights.
Yeah.
And I would argue I would think the biggest spender in advertising, which drives the value of broadcast rights, is the gambling industry at the moment. Yeah. Like Nine, 7 West, the radio guys, like ARN and Southern Cross Austereo, they're the ones that you'd be looking at and thinking, what impact is this going to have? Because in theory, it's substitutable. Sportsbet can't advertise Macca's advertise. But realistically, like there's only a certain amount of advertisers with a certain amount of budget, and that it's like supply and demand. Yeah.
So then the question becomes, what are they going to do about it? Because you're then going to have 2 lobby groups hitting the government from both sides. You're going to have the gambling lobby group saying, don't ban it. And then you're going to have the lobby groups from media saying, if you ban it, you're going to need to support us.
Yeah, well, there's also a third lobby group, which is the sporting codes themselves. So Gillan McLaughlin, the former CEO of the AFL, who's
now the CEO of
Tabcorp.
Tabcorp.
Yeah, I know. So Gil, during the inquiry, Peter Murphy's inquiry, I was listening to a clip of him saying the gambling industry money that goes to like jersey sponsorships and like sponsoring on the grounds, the Cronulla Sharks Stadium is PointsBet Stadium, and then also all the money that comes from broadcasting, all that gambling industry money goes to grassroots footy. That's his argument, which is exactly the same argument that the clubs and pubs industry runs around pokies.
Yeah.
And it is just like, come on, guys. So anyway, there's 3 sets of lobbyists lobbying for the status quo.
And then there's the public, though. A poll suggests that 70% of Australians support a ban on gambling ads.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
God.
And I don't think it's controversial.
Get it done.
Like, it's not nanny state to say ban the ads.
No.
Like, I have no problem with people having a punt, but I feel like gambling it to kids.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a problem gambler, like if you have a problem with gambling, you cannot escape it.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
Now, look, that's probably the news. I would say you'd be crazy, or not you'd be crazy if you own some of these legacy TV broadcasters, but God, they're struggling before this.
I'd say you'd be crazy.
Like, Nine have just cancelled their share buyback.
Yeah.
Cut 200 staff. In fact, all of the major media companies, legacy media companies, have cut staff this year.
Yeah.
Viewers are declining. This is just going to be another struggle that they face. Obviously, the money they were getting from Meta because of that sweetheart deal with the government, that's going. It's not fun to be in legacy media. At
It's
the moment.
not, no. Small media startups is the place to be. But look, to keep up with this developing story plus other major news headlines, sign up to our daily newsletter where we keep you informed as well as bring you answers to your common questions from experts. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can sign up to that if you're not already.
Equity Line.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.